And here we are again, guys. It's the Melon Man here with you today. And I have got another monumental guest today. I've got Katya. And Katya lives in Thailand now. She's just moved to Thailand this year. Her origins are in Australia. Now, she has migrated to Thailand in order to I think, express herself fully and live out her biggest dreams in her life. She's running retreats. She's been running retreats for the last 6 years, and I'm so intrigued by retreats that I'm super excited that I'm getting an opportunity to speak with Katya. I'm so grateful to Lee Molson again for making this connection. Katya does most of her work in emotional integration. She does a lot of healing with people. She's got a lifetime experience, 40 years of natural healing with various cleansing protocols. She opened the very first raw food cafe in Australia before anyone even knew what raw food could do. She's an iridologist. She's a colonic therapist. She's a homeopathy specialist. She's a vibrational medicine expert. She worked at the Hippocrates Clinic. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Hippocrates Clinic. It's world renowned. This lady is incredible. She's had trauma in her life. She's overcome disease, sickness, and illness herself, and she's done it with a raw food lifestyle. I hope she's going to share a little bit more. I've only spoken with this lady for a couple of minutes, and I already know that she was abducted at 8 years old. She's been through a life of trauma and suicide. She's survived that, and she's a cancer survivor. Wow. Does that just go on and on and on? Katya, thank you so much for making the time to spend some time and talk with me today. I'm so grateful for it, and I'm grateful to shine a light on you and anything that you do or anything that you want to bring forward. Please, let's do that. But let's start off and finish with, what's your passion, and that is your retreats. So first, tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now in Thailand.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just in the process of relocating here and looking for the ideal place, and it's not far away, it's only a few weeks away, to actually take retreats from. Now, personally, I like to do them from a home environment because people get to be with me 24/7, and I can dive in deeply with the people. I don't take large groups either. I only take small groups, small amount of people.
So how many would come and stay at a retreat with you?
Five at maximum, maybe 6. Yeah, and okay. I've also done one-on-ones and couples, but. For really intense personal work, but okay. Yeah, 5 and 6 is great, and
you're actually living amongst them, so you're trying to stay in space yourself, which is a challenge, not having very much personal time to regroup yourself.
That's true, and I don't take, I take only a few a year, but I give it everything, and I love it because I always learn and grow from the people that
I would imagine that you would learn and grow from an experience like that. And I imagine that you must get up very early in the morning, do you?
Well, not always. I can be a night owl, but
so you're a night person.
I can be, yes, and but people often, these retreats are mainly rejuvenation, and they're for people to be able to do a protocol of a lot of cleansing. I mean, the raw food lifestyle is very multifaceted, and we'll talk about that later. But for most people to have a reset, get away into a space where it's nurturing, supportive, where they can be vulnerable,
Yes.
because as you know, it brings up emotional stuff as well.
Yes.
And to explore some of the belief systems that they have that are,
Yes.
are holding them back. And I
Yes.
kind of bust a lot of those things because,
Right.
because of what's happened to me. I'm very lucky to have come in with an enormous amount of strength. So
Okay.
it inspires people,
So,
Yeah.
so I think you said something there that's really important to shine a light on, and you talked about breaking people's beliefs. Isn't that
Yes,
what holds us back from moving forward?
totally. Yes,
So
yes.
we
And
create our own boundaries by the things that we're thinking and saying.
absolutely. And, nearly every person on the planet has some kind of trauma. I mean, just being alive on this planet is pretty traumatic. Not only have we got a group of people, a large group of people being born with a heightened awareness now, and they're very sensitive souls. So they pick up and they feel just what's going on around them in their communities through the media. And all this sort of stuff, which we're being fed all the time, a lot of fear and a lot of, violence and kind of stuff that just adds to people's anxieties. And we're living in a time where overwhelm, people aren't dealing well with anxiety. And as I said, it's multifaceted. Technology plays a big part with the screens and the phones and the demands and people's attention being taken here, there. And most people are on a real tipping point of how they can cope. And their anxiety then, of course, manifests into, adrenal fatigue, burnout. They're trying to keep up. So it's a very challenging time for a lot of people to be living in at the same time, So, so the other thing is people have got traumas not just from their own life experiences, but like I said, just from witnessing and being around communities and seeing what's going on, and trying to cope with things. That just adds trauma to the body. The body is always trying to, keep homeostasis, and the pendulum swings too far because we don't rest the mind enough today to, you know what I mean? It's just continually being stimulated, and we end up, most people will take a holiday or go somewhere, but they still can't relax their mind. Or, do you know what I mean? It's like, how do I stop this anxiety? So my retreats kind of allow people to come into a space. It's very nurturing, beautiful environment. I take them to some incredible cultural places here, hot springs.
Uh-oh. We've got a freeze here from our internet. I'm not sure if that is on my end or on your end, Katya. Hopefully you will be back. I love all of the things you're talking about. I would love to explore this conversation with you much further if possible. Come back, Katya. Oh, no. Ah, yes.
We're
All
back. I don't know what happened, but we're
right.
back. Well, thank goodness. Well, at least I've kept my train of thought. So the protocol I've developed helps people repair the organs and systems of the body. This is where I work very differently to people. Most people doing cleansing and detoxing and that. Because, as I said, the major organs, liver, the kidneys, and so most people's, those organs themselves and the systems are weak, they're struggling. So it's all about basically not just cleansing, but rebuilding. People need to get to certain plants and herbs. I'm so fortunate here in Thailand, there's some incredible plants that help do that too. So not only when they come here, their body gets to ingest this array of foods, a variety of foods that are really quite nourishing to the body as well. So and then of course I'm able to help them through the emotional aspects of things and to most people leave not only looking different, but they are inspired to live their life in different ways, especially when they know what's happened to me. But, and, the dreams that most people have that remain in their hearts, they can now go forward and feel that, they can bring these things to them. They can make it happen, And I've taken a lot of big, big plunges going to different countries and things people wouldn't even think of doing. But I've always listened to my soul promptings. Well, not always, but more so in the last few years since I've had, the health challenges and a couple of accidents also. And I really pushed beyond my limits. And not only did I get an autoimmune problem as well, but I then started to put my needs first, all my needs. And even though it really ruffled a lot of people's feathers, including my family, because I just would not sacrifice myself to fit in or to do family obligations and all this kind of stuff. So I was always seen as the rebel and, but, I believe we're here to live our own lives. We come on our own and live on our own. And the first thing is to be loyal to yourself, to thine own self be true. And that is a very, very difficult one for people to live. And so I help.
think that's an important one, Katya.
Yes. Yeah. And it is difficult, particularly for women, because, we've got so much programming. Like you said, the programming it's not trauma and emotional integration in as such that, we've had something horrible happen. It's more the programming. We come in and we've also got in our DNA, we've got ancestral patterns and how we watch and observe how our parents respond to life. And then, of course, we take on, because we're observing and soaking up everything up to about 7. I mean, Bruce Lipton, I've met him and I've talked to him. He's a lovely man. And I've always, because my background's in vibrational therapies and that thoughts are actually energy and they impact on the cells more than we realize. In fact, it's actually, I believe it's more the food. I've seen people who are raw food still get sick, So, we're multifaceted beings. We have to address a whole lot. But
so Lipton was about thought turning on genetic code inside of the cell and actually altering our body's cellular structure and hormonal effects in our lives from our thoughts.
Yes. Well, he proved that cells are influenced by their environment because science has always told us that it's genetics and, we're stuck with something. Whereas he proved by taking cells into different environments that it's the environment that they respond to. Right. And they contract accordingly. I wrote this a bit in my book. And it's been also proved we put electrodes on people and we measure what happens in the body when they have thoughts of grief or, sadness or love and joy. Right. And the cells contract and expand in accordance.
That's it. Right. So what's happening in our life is very much an effect of the environment that we've created for ourselves within our minds. That's coming back to those limited thoughts and beliefs that you were talking about breaking when you bring people on these retreats, where you get very intimately connected with people.
Yeah, it's actually a gift now for a lot of people because they have the opportunity to sever some of these ancestral binding and patterns that have really strangled people the way they've lived out their lives. And so we can actually sever those things. And when people know and they experience for themselves that, we really are unlimited. And when we even we can see it present in our lives in small things. And I demonstrate people examples of this, very simple ones, and they get it, So we've been all, as you know, narrowed into this box of we're only capable of doing so much, but we're so much more. So I think people like to hear stories. They want to see how other people are doing it, and that's what inspires us. The human spirit is so strong, and we've seen remarkable stories of
and infinite. It's infinite. The human spirit is infinite.
Exactly. Yes, it is. It is. But
there's
it has
an infinite power that's within us. Yes. Wonderful. Yes. So you know what? You said so many things that I would love to readdress with you. A couple of things that you talked about. You're bringing people to a very intimate environment where they can feel safe and they can feel trust, and they can have, you know, a facilitator that has a lifetime of experience and, you know, raw food experience with healing, so they can be trained on that. But what you talked about was that most people are in a state of chronic stress. You talked about people being in a state of chronic stress, and a lot of that stress that they're in is actually even a perception of stress. Yes, there is actual stress because of, you know, our devices and our technology and the electromagnetic effect of that, and the effect of stress from physical food, and the effect of stress of all of the toxins around us in our lives. But a lot of it too is even just our perception of, like, we need to have a bigger house, or we need to have another car, or we need to have the right clothes, or we need to go on the right vacations. We need to have the right money, and we need to have enough money, and we need to pay these bills that we've got on top of our heads, and there's taxes that are on top of us. So there's all of this real stress, and then there's all of this perceived stress. And, you know, can you comment any more on maybe just stress in general? I'm sure you can probably just...
Well, yeah, I just want to add in there too, society has programmed us, you know, when people interact and, you know, they make a phone call and say, hi, how you go? I'm really busy. I'm busy. We've had this programming that to say we're busy, to feel it gives others a sense of we're accomplishing something. And it's crazy, because then people feel, well, you know, I've got to keep this momentum going. And it can also go to the extreme where people just can't give time to themselves without feeling some kind of guilt, or, you know, so it comes back to, you know, I mean, so many teachers have said, you know, being in the now, learning to be present, learning to be focused. That's a huge thing today, is the focus, because with the technology, I know, even talking to a lot of young people, and I love working with young people because they're so open, they're so willing to learn and change. And as much as I love working with older people, there's people who are also that way, but there's many that are resistant. Yeah. So, with the technology,
just because of the programming, just because of the length of years of programming,
yes,
right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Do I understand you in that, saying that, you know, we do have all of this stress, but the way to cope and manage with it is to come to that now, come to the mindfulness,
exactly,
to come to the quiet space. Exactly. I think that's it. Is that we just...
And more so, John, with the focus, because people will say, I've listened to young people say, how do I start my day? I've got a dozen things to do. But then the phone, there's distraction, more distractions, I think, that people find it hard to block out, or to say no to, or just, you know, okay, just keep focused on this one thing and carry that through and get the momentum going with that. That's what I find a lot of young people say to me. They find it difficult to fully engage to something to completion. Do you understand what I'm saying there? Yeah.
They get distracted. There's just too many things. Yeah. There's yeah. Marketing. There's the chime of the Facebook. There's the email right. coming in. We got the text message coming in. There's so many distractions. But I think it's important. I think you're raising this point, is that first thing, bring yourself to your power, that powerful spirit that's within us.
Yes.
And project outwardly with your thought and word, which is what creates our day and our life. Visualize, speak out, say it, think it, bring yourself to the energy of it, emotionally feel it, what it is that you want to create first, before you open up your phone, before you turn on your email, before you turn on all the distraction. Get yourself to the right space. And if you can do it again at the night before you go to bed, you seem to be more maybe like a nighttime person that does it. Do it again at night. Do it at first thing in the morning before the bustle and the rustle starts up in your day.
I just want to bring up another point, John. I think the way society now is, it's designed to take us away from going in with ourselves. So they've already done some experiments with young people, and it's quite frightening, the results. I'm not saying this is across the board, but it's obviously getting worse and worse. And I do travel, and I've seen this at airports, I've seen this in different countries. You know, the hand to screen thing is epidemic. It really is.
My son is on his computer and his iPad and his phone. That's
yes,
it. He
yes,
and
yes.
he's lost an ability to focus. And I
That's
keep on
exactly
telling him
right.
that's the most important thing, son, is focus.
Yeah, yeah. And the way to do that is get kids back to playing, going in nature, and not be structured. Let them, that's how their creativity grows and expands. But it's been squashed out of a lot of us. But this hand to thing, they did this with a group of kids, and seriously, they could not go, a lot of them, without a minute without having some sort of anxiety generated, because you've got to remember, these things give us dopamine hits, okay? And so without having to pick up the phone. So the whole of it's structured so that you know, a lot of people are just terrified of being on their own in a quiet space, you know what I mean, when in actual fact this is the key. When we start to have time on our own, go out in nature. That's another thing I'm finding with young people. Someone said to me 20 years ago, you know what, Katia, we're going to be helping these younger people reconnect with nature. And of course we just laughed, as if, But I have spoken to people, young people in Bangkok, and I said, you go out in nature, the only time they see nature is on a screen. Their whole life is urbanized to the point where they work inside, live inside in condos, their gym's inside. They meet people in the mall for food and dinner. They don't go outside. It's incredible. And, well, it's not incredible. It's saddening, but this is how things are going.
Yes.
So nature is a way to naturally de-stress and to get them out. But also the bottom line is, when you have time with yourself, you hear your soul speaking to you. And this is what it is. I think a lot of people, behind a lot of anxiety, is confusion. Because we're bombarded with so much information. We don't know who to believe, whatever this, and people just go and Google things, and they're just, brain is on overload.
But they're not listening to themselves. They're not sitting with themselves and listening to themselves and listening to their internal guide, or running any of the things that are going on in their life through their internal guide and making a decision for themselves from that.
Yes, exactly. And this is where, the treats I do, it gives people the opportunity to sit with themselves, to actually, oh my God, I haven't got distractions, the kids to run after, or I don't have to do this and do that. And they get to listen to their soul speaking. And, the thing is, our soul, our inner guide, our GPS, our whatever, our higher guidance, whatever you want to call it, always is pointing us in the direction that is for our best, our well-being, for us
to realize what we need to realize in order to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, in order to get to where we want to be, right?
Yeah, and this is where it's sending signals. Now, I want to bring this back to our own bodies. Okay. Now, we've been made with a system, and I'm actually writing this in my next book. When we're born, we have this inbuilt system that it's so miraculous. I mean, the creators just inbuilt this, how to deal with emotions and stress, okay? It's already built into us. And you see this in babies, right? They get upset and they cry and they cry, it's all going on. And then it's like it's been internally processed, and next minute they're gurgling and smiling and laughing, because we have this process and system that when we actually feel the emotion, we express it fully without editing it or holding back, the body will naturally move on. That will go, and it will move on to another state of clarity. In Chinese medicine, you can see this with how the emotions go around in the organs. So, and when I say that, I mean like spleens associated with worry, obsessiveness, and so forth. And if that's not expressed, then it creates stagnancies and blockages in the kidneys, because then fear starts to get generated. And then that happens in the liver, because the liver is all about acting and taking action on those things. If we don't take action, then we become fearful. And then if grief is not expressed, grief, when it's expressed fully and deeply, leads to joy. People go, how can that be? But joy is in the heart. And this is how I healed breast cancer. I was able to go straight into these deeper feelings. And people are often terrified of going into those feelings. But we did it naturally as babies until something shifted. And that was when we were told, don't cry, don't yell, don't get upset. So we learned the programming not to express what we're feeling, because the consequences were we were going to not be approved of. We were not going to get the love we wanted, accepted. So you can see how we've all shut down a mechanism that's been built in our bodies to naturally allow us to flow through emotions.
That is so important. That is such an important message. Thank you.
And it's in us, and we have to go back to that.
Thank you. That is a wonderful gift you have given me today. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. Yes.
Wow.
And so I encourage people to dive into emotion, because most people are terrified of revisiting pain. But the truth is, on the other side of that is a clarity and a knowing that has been clouded by these false, they're illusions. I mean, this whole thing with this breast was, and this is there, you know, Louise Hay's books, early books were fairly accurate, you know, the emotions, and through my teachings and vibrational medicine, thoughts have different vibrations, and they resonate and match certain organs and systems of the body. So when you express the emotion, really get it out, okay, that organ, that system gets the energy that's been stagnating and blocked to it. And
this is emotional healing. This is emotional healing.
Exactly. And most of these beliefs we have are false. Now, I believe that my mother didn't love me because she was cold. When I go back through our childhood, I mean, all of us have childhoods where the biggest wound we all carry is not being good enough, or feeling good enough, or, you know, approval and being judged. And we come in with all these different wounds and born into families that play these out for us so that we can heal them, right? And there could be themes of addiction, or, you know, something to extreme violence, but abandonment and rejection and all these things, right?
Yes.
So when you dive into that emotion and feel it, I mean, not just, oh, a little sob. I mean, this is deep stuff, like really let it out. I mean, you'll be surprised what happens. I was yelling, and trauma that had comes out, but you can actually feel the tissue change underneath when that is expressed. But more so, the belief that you have, you realize it's false. I realized once I got this deep emotion out that I wasn't loved, I realized it was false, and my mother did love me. And that's the gift of the clarity that comes when you express it.
Awesome. Now, could you please tell me, how do we, like, as you're speaking to me like this, as you're telling me this, I feel like I'm just like, you have got the answer for me. Like, I feel I've got suppressed emotion. There's repressed emotion within me. Now, what would you say to, you know, if I want to get some of that organic emotional suppression up and out, and I don't know what it is?
Okay, well, you do in a way, because your body is always, like I said, it's got this feedback system. So we're getting signals all the time, but we override them. We ignore them. And we get to a point where we don't even know. But seriously, we have to start to tune in and be aware. Awareness is the first key. When we're in a situation and we're triggering, you've heard the trigger, something happens and we feel it in our body.
Yes.
That's where we go to first, because the truth is our body is a reflection of our emotions. When we heal the emotions, we look totally different and heal ourselves. So it is a vehicle for that. So if we start to get a funny feeling up in the solar plexus, and that goes on, when did that start happening? How long? You've got to ask the questions, go into self-inquiry and be aware, because your body is always trying to help you. It's sending signals all the time. It's like, you know, but you're turning your back on them. It's not happening. And if you ignore it long enough, it will send more, and other organs start to get affected from the stagnancy and blockages.
Wow.
But because most people are on the conscious path, that, well, not most, more people are, they're wanting to look and see how that they can take responsibility for things themselves. You know, we've had eons of blaming everything out. I mean, the mainstream is still doing that, but that's the next paradigm. That's the next shift, when we acknowledge that our emotions are valid and that they shouldn't be judged, they shouldn't be shamed, they should be welcomed with love and compassion, you know. And like I said earlier,
and you said a big one there, responsibility. Taking
yes,
responsibility for what's going on, and our suppression of our emotions. So I'm doing this right now with you, and I'm feeling this, and I'm saying, I recognize that I'm responsible for the withholding of emotion that I'm doing. And, you know, how do I,
okay,
now that I know that, how do I let that out and recognize
right,
it and
okay.
identify it?
Well, we need to get to the point where we express it as soon as we can. So if you've had an upset or something's triggered you and you just totally feel not just ungrounded, but you feel uncomfortable, you've got aches and pains, or something's been,
Yes.
go on your own somewhere.
Yes.
And I used to say to people, get in the car, even go down the beach, wind the window down,
I
and
love
just
this.
cry, let the emotion out. I did this with the breast lump. I actually just went into the lump full on. People go, oh, don't touch the lump. It's not part, it's part of you. And the scene will come into the mind more often, but it's learning not to censor. It's learning to let the vision come. Your body's trying to help you. So the vision will often come up, which it did with me. I had scenes of my mother and daughter and all sorts of things going on. And then you get that scene and you cry at the time, or express the emotion, yell, right? So for instance, you had an argument with your partner, whatever, earlier in the day, but you've passed on to that, but you're still carrying that emotion to some degree,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So go off on your own, go for walks. I mean, how many generations ago they were taught to go out and have a good walk to calm down, because you get to process. You can scream, not scream, but you can just move
scream if you have to. Get out in the sunlight, put your feet on the ground.
Yeah,
and
let the emotion rise. See, a lot of people, it'll come up, but they swallow it down and back down. We've got
yes.
to break through that barrier where we've been told, don't speak, don't cry, don't express.
Let it out. Let it go. Let it out.
So there's going to be a lot more people
Express
doing
that
this
fear.
emotional work now to facilitate people to be a safe space so they can let it out. And then they're able to do it for themselves when they go back to their life. In other words, they'll become so in tune with when they start to feel, I can't, I'm lashing out at people and being, I'm not being myself, because there's this emotion that hasn't been discharged in some way,
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
And of course, exercise is another way, John, too. Vigorous exercise is another way of
Wonderful.
charging it.
That's
But
what I've
generally,
always
let
done.
the voices come out. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so I want to touch on some other things. I mean, you talked about a lot of wonderful, wonderful things. You talked about, and I think, you talked about your own personal protocol. So would you like to share any about that, or would you rather not?
I'll just do a little bit. Basically, it's working with plants and herbs, and I've got a background in herbal medicines and stuff, and I've studied a lot of Chinese herbs and I'm studying these ones here. So these specific plants that will help. Their vibration is targeted towards those organs, and they help support them in their function. Because you probably heard in Chinese medicine, the kidneys, house they're like power packs, our vital force and our energy. It's like, so they help support and build those up, because as we get older and the knocks of life and things that have happened to us, this can get weaker and weaker, and of course we have a lot of problems with it. That's why adrenal fatigue is epidemic now, and a lot of other kidney related problems.
Dr. Morris talks a lot about adrenal fatigue. Dr. Sebi talks a lot about herbs. So does Dr. Morris. Everyone talking about herbs. I think this is really important. So you do a lot of herbal work.
I do herbs. But you know, I've got to throw in a few things here.
Great.
I have done the fruitarian thing. I have done a lot of versions of raw over the years, and I'm going to come out and be very honest now. Now I'm in my 60s. I'll be honest with you, I don't see a lot of healthy fruitarian. In fact, I just don't see it. Or healthy people who've done long raw. Now, a lot of the things that people don't do is juicing a lot of greens and lots of different, they don't get enough mix and variety of plants and herbs and things. You know, people often stick to 10 or so, you know. We need to get more variety. The other thing is, I feel that our joints, as we get into our 60s, the structure of the body is what becomes priority, because if we don't get that right and we don't support it, it's going to affect us in the 70s. So as well as different herbs and plants, I feel it's good to totally reduce a lot of fruit when you get older. Now, it's
Juice, a lot of
opposite to what I used to say years and years ago when I did a couple of interviews in my early 50s. But, you know, as I've got older, I can see that too much, because of the way fruits are today, hybridized, they can also create a lot of insulin problems for people and blood disorders, blood sugar disorders. And I'm talking about my own experience and people I've worked with too, particularly. And it's not usually it's not entirely the fruit's fault. It's the way we're living that's compounding it. Do you understand what I mean? The anxiety, we've already got anxiety, put more fruit on top of that, and it creates more. Fruit is fantastic for cleansing, but rapid glycation, I see a lot of older fruitarians, they've got very dry hair, they're almost looking greyish looking, gaunt, very emaciated. Different things happen, you know, and when you're young, you've got a much higher resilience and you can go on for a while, but as you get older, you have to be aware of your body, make tweaks and changes. And I've actually started having some raw eggs because I found that it was like me plugging into another reality. It supplied some of the things that I wasn't getting and that my bones and things were needing, and it took away some of the symptoms that were starting to happen, which I didn't particularly like. So this journey is all about listening to your body intuitively. And look, there was a time where I would get intuitive messages, you know, have an egg. I feel really guilty about it. But now, since I've done it, I can't tell you the difference. And this is just me personally, but I want to be able to age and have good bones and have good the joints, because I've had some incredible accidents too. You know, I smashed a kneecap that was so bad, you know, and I was immobilized for 4 weeks, and tendons and shortened, and I was told I'd have limited mobility, but I didn't listen. I said, no, I'm not going to accept that. And I don't listen to doctors, and I don't listen to what people say. Just go, no. And so I had to take a lot of work. But I think if you've had damage done, you know, like a raw egg or something, it offers repair in some ways, right? So anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
So some animal protein as a part of your program.
For me, it has been in small increments, yes. And I'm just saying eggs for me at the moment. I know Carol Olch will have some raw fish or something, but look, you know, I just don't think, after I was doing raw for 20 years, it's a long period of time. Not many people do that, right?
Right.
It served me wonderfully. But as I've got older, my needs have changed. And I feel, people say to me, I look amazing for my age, right? I feel fantastic. I've got thick, lustrous hair, then I was getting thin. There was things happening, teeth, I was breaking teeth. There were things happening that were red flags, you know. That's a whole nother subject we can go into.
Well, and I think in all fairness that, you know, 10 years or 20 years of a raw food diet is probably plenty of time to remove any physical toxins that would be inside your body. And then once that has been done, I mean, that's the purpose of a raw food diet is to heal the body by the removal of toxic elements that have been put into the body from incorrect food choices for an extended period of time. So if you're going to a raw food style eating, and if you're going into a fasting style protocol for, you know, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, well, then after doing that, I think the bulk of the toxins should be out of your body. And I think it's time maybe to reintroduce some things back.
Well, you know, it's only the eggs, you know. Who knows? I could even have some fish down the track. I don't know. But I must say this. I love raw fruits and vegetables. I will never stop eating those. So my diet really hasn't changed. I've just added something in.
Adding a few extra things.
I don't eat grains. I don't eat sprouted, you know, seriously. And I wasn't, even when I was vegan, I see a lot of these younger kids now, they're eating junk vegan. And no wonder they're getting sick and having brain fog issues and having a lot of having mental issues, you know, and that's hard for them to keep an equilibrium. You know, and a balance.
Wonderful. So let me just continue. Let me continue
just my
here.
observation. But I just, and anyway.
I love it. I'm glad that you've shared that.
Listening to your body. Yes.
Now, going further, you've said plant medicine. You've said herbs. Is there any like even stronger plant medicine that you are involved with in Thailand?
Well, that's an interesting question. Well, you know, depending where you are, that kind of medicine's kind of illegal in certain places, especially Australia.
Right.
So I use some plants like, you know, shilajit, and there's some other ones that actually help raise dopamine levels. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to feel good and feel better, right?
Yes.
My problem with some of these plant medicines are okay, but they can also tax the liver, because I've had addictions with them too.
Right. I agree with you. I think a lot of people are making the mistake of saying, oh, it's plant medicine, so I can do it all the time. And you know, that makes it okay because it's plant medicine and it's natural.
That's right. And those two go together, you know, and Victoria's used to say this too, that it brings in the cousins. Coffee and stimulants, because most people will find that their energy levels start to go after a while and they need something to keep them going. They always go together, and I wrote this in my first book. When I first went raw, you know, I thought I'd have a coffee every now and then, but after that 3-day period, next thing I want wine, next thing I want this and that, because it changes the biochemistry. You're going more acidic, and you can activate these addictions.
Wonderful.
But there are some wonderful plants that naturally raise dopamine levels, and I kind of give people those, and is to get the chemistry, brain chemistry.
Okay, I want to come back to a couple other things that I think were really important about what you said today. Was pursuing your dream, even if it kind of goes against the family energy or community, or this is a really big one, I think, because sometimes in partnerships, you know, we're married and someone gets bit by the bug of cleansing and detoxifying or mental forward action with thought and goal setting and wanting to change their life. And at some point in their life, in the middle of their life, they want to go in a different direction. And then we've got a partner or a family or our career or something in our life that is holding us perhaps in the role that we are, in the space that we are.
You're right, and it's expectation and the guilt trips. You know, I've got a wonderful story. I kind of hesitate, but I'm gonna share it. I've shared it before, and that was with the birth of my first grandchild. And I just had an accident, that knee accident I was talking about, and at the time I was consulting. I'd been headhunted in the way to consult and specialize in raw food in this major health food store, and also a little bit of homeopathy. So I had this accident, and they said they'd wait for me to come back, right? So when I did, I came back too early after this accident. I pushed myself. And of course I had problems. I had swelling with the knee, and there was a few other things that was clicking and catching. I ended up having some surgery to try and rectify it, but it didn't help. And I pushed myself further and got fibromyalgia, and oh gosh. But it was overdoing because I was single and I had to keep the wheels turning for myself. I had to support myself. And this is another, there was so many topics we can go, because a lot of people are single, particularly women. They don't have that support system, you know, for them to take some time out. So anyway, I knew I'd been to Thailand quite a few times to have some, I've just found this wonderful woman, old Chinese woman who did the old traditional acupuncture. I've had acupuncture in several parts of the world, including the US. Nothing is like what she does. She uses, you stick a needle, she'll put up to 90 needles in, and it just totally, you're a different person, just transformed you. And I knew intuitively that I had to go and have treatment, because I got to the point where I couldn't walk, and the people I was working for at the time said to me, Katya, we can see you struggling, please take a month off. Right now, this is the time when my daughter's about to give birth to her first grandchild. It's about 3 weeks away.
Oh boy.
And so I said, okay, fantastic, we'll pay you, just take the month off. We want to see you back thriving. So I did, and I said to her, I'm going to go to Thailand, because my son-in-law was horrified. How can you've got to put your daughter first. She's about to have a baby. She wants you there. I must say, we didn't have a close relationship as such. I didn't actually go to a lot of family things, and I am the different grandmother. I had my mission, I kind of that. But anyway, getting back to the story. So I was adamant I was going to go. And he even threatened for me not to see my grandchild if I was not there for the birth of my daughter's, first child.
Wow.
So I know a lot of women would have backed down, relented, given into guilt, obligation, sacrificing their own needs.
Yes.
And I knew, and I said to him, I knew if I didn't go and have treatment, I wouldn't have been able to function to come back. I said, who's going to spin the wheels? I've got to earn money. I've got an apartment to keep running. I've got this to do. I've got that to do.
Yes.
So anyway, I went, and he was furious.
Yes.
Just like threatened this. I still went. And of course, I'm in the plane feeling very stressed about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I still went. Guess what? I came back. I went for 3 weeks. My grandson was nearly 3 weeks overdue. He was born the day I came back.
Oh, wow.
So the universe had my back.
Yes.
So this is what I mean when you put yourself first and do these things and listen to your soul prompting, because it was telling me loud and clear, and it was the best thing I did. I was then able to recover and get on. But
yes,
you know what I mean?
Follow that inner guide. Follow that.
And like you were saying, don't listen to these old programs and societal expectations, and we got to conform and fit in and do all that. And
don't do something, avoid something because somebody else's opinion or what somebody else is saying, or if they say that's not good or that's not wrong. If you feel it inside,
I did actually wrestle a bit with myself, because when you've got all this coming at you, right? Yeah. And it was, but I remained true to myself, because I thought, I'm gonna feel. What happened, but I just remained true. And the thing is, when you do this and you listen to your soul prompting, you do it and you see the positive outcome, you're more likely to keep doing that.
Yes.
Right? Because we're all going to be hit with, feeling horrible from other people that we're not meeting their expectations. So
I think that's a very important message and lesson, that we've got to really listen to that power that is within each of us. And sometimes it may not be the most popular thing. It may not be the most popular choice with family or friends or colleagues, or I don't know, whoever else is in your community or in your life. They may not like it. They may not understand it, but they're not in your space.
That's right.
They haven't had your experience. They don't have your perspective. They don't have what information you have received in order for you to step forward in the way that you are. And you must do what is inside of you, else what's inside of you will actually be your demise, I believe.
That's right. Well, most of us are at this time right now in the process of dismantling these societal, ancestral, family, cultural expectations, obligations, self-sacrifice. because it was seen, you've got to look, remember, there's only a couple of generations, it was seen as being virtuous and godly and, you know, a whole lot of
Yes.
stuff.
Give yourself up. Give
Put
yourself
others
up.
before you. Yes. So all of us are in this process, and that's why I think there's going to be a lot more like emotional midwives helping people get through these things so we can become whole and more sovereign in a way, because we do so many things out of knee-jerk programming and say okay to something when we really don't want to be doing it, you know. So, and that in itself generates more stress. So in other words, we've got to take this stress down by not only having time to listen to ourselves, but taking care of our own needs first.
Wonderful, wonderful, important messages, Katya. I have a couple other things on my page here.
Yes.
One, and I think we've been talking about that, but maybe you might want to just say one more thing as it relates specifically to women.
In what regard?
Like, I think you said it, you know, as mothers,
yes,
as providers for their husbands. I think women fall into this role a lot as giving themselves up.
Yes, again, it's breaking these patterns. I mean, we're not going swinging the extreme, because we do need, it's coming from codependence to interdependence. And we're all trying to navigate that balance. But it's more asking yourself regularly, listening to your body when someone's asking you, hey, could you, you know, we're having a party on such and such, could you make such and, can bring some food or bring a plate? And normally you go, yeah, sure. But then you get this feeling afterwards, you know, now I've got to, I'd already made a commitment to do such, now I've got to go and get food or go to the market and find something. And so you've gone against yourself. You've got to listen to your body more. And of course, a lot of people won't be happy with your choices, but that doesn't matter. The thing is, what will happen is you'll get more respect from other people. That's the thing. And a lot of people have allowed themselves to be doormats. And it's just programming. And you become happier. So you actually get the middle ground. At first, we're all trying to navigate this, but particularly for women, it's ingrained in more of them, because women are the nurturers, the natural, you know, the counselors. People always turn to them and all that. I mean, you know, and the teachers and the, you know, all of that. So it's getting that more of a balance. Because if we look back in a couple of generations, women were really worn out and just had it by the time of their 50s. And we are living longer, so we've got to look at the quality of our lives, you know. Most people, the last 20 years of their life is not good. You know, this is what's happening, you know, they're medicated, they end up, their bodies break down prematurely. So it doesn't have to be that way. So it starts with self-care and making those decisions, not just with your diet. Definitely choose more, eat more fresh fruit and vegetables. There's one thing I say, eat them fresh. At least make your diet at least 85, 90% raw, at least. You know, because that in itself is a huge thing for a lot of people to do, you know.
Yes.
And have that little leeway. So you know, but just to do that, and also look at other areas of your life where you need to make some adjustments, you know, for yourself.
All areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to finish off, just because I find you such an interesting and stimulating lady. I love talking with you. I just want to ask your opinion, because you didn't really talk about this, but I would appreciate your opinion. You talked about stress a little bit, and how, you know, the world is kind of keeping us in like a distracted, you know, we're constantly being bombarded and learning to be in a distracted space.
Yes.
Who do you think, or what is it? What is it? Is it a thing? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it an energy? Is it an entity? What is it, do you feel, that is orchestrating this lack of information, this withholding of truth, this suppression of energy, this distraction amongst everyone to be onto these devices and electromagnetic energy all of around us, and hormones and hybridized fruits and GMOs and fluoridated water. What the heck is going on here?
John, you've just opened up an all-night conversation.
I know, and I don't mind coming back to talk to you about it, but if you could just give me a little bit of insight, give me a little bit.
You know, it's like, look,
give me a little bit of it.
I don't want to see, you know, a lot of people are just still not awake and are horrified that the government could possibly be, you know, not have our best interests at heart. You know, when you start to tell them, look, this is going on, that's going on, they go, no. But,
this is it. But isn't it?
It's just less than what we really are. I mean, I see this too in a lot of the feminine. Yeah, oh gosh, I don't even know it. It's just so many areas I've got an opinion on, but I don't know who or what or.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got my own thoughts, and everyone's got theirs, but there is definitely something that is. You know, there's parasitic type of energies that are infiltrating us, either through big technology. They're coming at us everywhere, and this is not some made-up thing. I mean, the Matrix is, we know it's real, but they're distorting our thinking. I mean, the whole thing is who is running your mind, who is actually in control of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really is part of that is getting that back.
There we go. There we go.
Because these things that we have now subjected to is all an attempt to control our thinking and the way we respond and the way we do, and to suppress us and to also make us weaker versions of ourselves. There's no question about it, you know. Yeah. And you see this in generations. I mean, you remember a couple of generations and men were really big, you know, it's like, yeah. Men, again, there's another thing there to make men weaker, you know. I don't know if you kind of have seen what's going on here too. And yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it all comes back to taking back our power, spending more time on our own, getting away from all media. Yeah. I don't even have any people talk to me and say, this is happening in the world. I don't know. I mean, people say to me, but you've got to know something that's going on. I said, why? The point is, our reality can be what we make it. My world, and that's the other thing, a lot of people are worried and fearful of things that aren't even in their immediate reality. They're sitting on their, is this that you're seeing relayed through the media? Is this happening in your life around you? No. Yet the programming is, we're reacting in our bodies with fear and anxiety as if it is. So it's really getting people to question, look, you know, you have the choice to make your reality what you want. You have that power. We're not at the mercy of all this stuff.
Wonderful,
right?
Wonderful. Thank you. You know, there's something, you know, who cares what it is? I don't care about what it is. I just know that there's a power within us all that we can rise up and be liberated and take control and change our future if we want to.
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Katya. I had a lovely time talking with you today.
Great. I just want to mention one thing too that yes. I have quite a strong psychic lineage in my family. So part of the things that I do when I actually work one-on-one with people, I can actually read their energies in their body, the stagnantism, where the ancestral blocks are.
Wow.
So those things, and I think we've all got those abilities too. So I actually encourage, when people come to retreats, I'm just saying, my emphasis, John, is on education. I actually do lectures in the retreats. I do a formula. I teach them about their own bodies and how it works, because a lot of this people don't know how their cells work, and there's certain function in the body we can't change. That's the way we're made. And as much as we'd like to, but we can't. So my whole thing is education a lot too, is educating people.
Wonderful.
So I just thought I'd add that in too.
So can we get some links to your retreat, links to your webpage? We'll make sure that you provide that to me, and I'll make sure I put it in the post. and I put it
Okay.
with on
My
my
website's
YouTube
still being
page.
done now because I'm doing a kind of a revamp with it, especially with these retreats once I get the and it's almost there. I've looked at a few and I've almost got the right place. But I have a group, Raw Women's Wisdom. I'm actually writing my third book, Raw Women's Wisdom. So it's actually got that two thing. It's raw, it's authentic, but it's also, the raw side. And that's a Facebook private group that people can come in, and I do Facebook
Cool.
Lives.
Nice. Please give me the links. Provide me with the links to your
Shall do that.
site and your pages and your
And people
group.
can always message and private message you too if they want readings. Until the website won't be long. It's a couple of weeks away, but in the interim. So yes. So thank you,
Awesome.
John.
Awesome. Wow. So wonderful.
Good. I hope well, I did obviously lift you.
You did. You did. You've been wonderful. Thank you so much for the time today. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.